Hello, Cameron. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to start us off by telling us who are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm Cameron. I'm from Scotland and I'm riding for Trinity Racing at the moment. I'm mainly racing in cyclocross, but I also do mountain bike and hopefully road. It was the plan in 2020, but as things were,
Yeah.
uh, things changed quite a bit. But I'm currently in Belgium, uh, which I'm very thankful for. The races are happening every week, which is, yeah, which I didn't. It's been yeah, there's some weeks that you're like, wow, how are we racing? But overall, things are pretty safe, so I'm happy to be racing.
With the racing at the minute, I'm guessing there's no spectators at the race, and that must be super weird for cyclocross.
Definitely, like, and yeah, if anyone's watched cyclocross or has been to cyclocross race, like a good majority of the kind of atmosphere is from the crowd, and like the courses are actually a lot of the time like set up around people watching it. So yeah, you turn up to the races and it's just like staff members and riders, and you're kind of going around this kind of very empty field with lots of wooden poles in it. It's definitely a different atmosphere, and you're definitely even more in your own bubble of suffering. There's no kind of white noise of people shouting and stuff. Um, and yeah,
Oh,
I don't know.
Belge.
The first few races, I didn't really notice the lack of crowds because I was thinking about other things like how hard the
Mm,
race was or what I needed to do at that exact moment. But now, yeah, as the season's kind of gone on, you're like, yeah, like this is weird, this new normal of no big gatherings. And I'm not sure when the crowds can come back. I guess I think maybe in kind of small groups. I don't really understand. I don't really know, but cyclocross is kind of a good one in terms of that they managed to kind of fence it off almost like it's almost like an arena
mm,
sport. So they could actually put on the race, fence off the whole venue, and then put on the race with no crowds. Whereas I think it's crazy how these races like the Tour and the Vuelta went ahead with yeah this massive race going through open towns, but it worked
mm.
and we managed to get good racing. So yes, crazy few years, isn't it?
Yeah, it has been weird, this whole year, and to have, I mean, for me personally, I normally work on events and stuff, and I have, events over the year, but it was almost like nothing happened, and then it all happened at once, and it was like this amazing, like I couldn't keep up with all the races going on, which was, it was thrilling in its own way, but it was also like, what
Yeah.
is this madness? How did you get into racing?
So I think it was my cousin who kind of it came from his side. So he their family are down in Reading, and we went to see them one kind of autumn, I think, and he was doing a cyclocross race. So we went along to watch, and I have a mountain bike, and I had done some a little bit of racing and stuff in Scotland, but nothing like cyclocross. So then we went to this whole new thing that we didn't know about, which was racing around a field in the mud, and it was I just really enjoyed it. I think I was 9 or 10, and it was just quite simple. Like you all start here, you do laps until we tell you to stop, and then that's it. You had your fun, and then you can go play with your mates or something. So it was quite a nice, yeah. I think that's a lot how a lot of kids get into it. It's just a kind of weekend activity and something to look forward to. And then when our family went back to Scotland, we kind of found the local races, the local series, and then kind of yeah started traveling about with them. And that was kind of my childhood was yeah going around different races and kind of progressing through to different courses and stuff. And then I think my first race outside of Scotland was maybe like under 14, so we went to like a national mountain bike round, and that was a whole new level of like whoa, like you go there and you see like you see like pro riders, and then you see guys who had maybe come over from abroad, and then obviously I'm like watching things on the TV like the Tour de France and just kind of slowly piecing together all these cool parts of this sport that I was enjoying just for the like the thrill of going fast or like the enjoyment of just playing in the mud. But then you start to see all of the other things like these guys are like they do it every day. Like these are adults like doing it as their job, and like it's not just a kids thing that you would do at the weekend. So then when I was like yeah under 14, under 16, realizing that if I like put my mind to it, like this is something I could maybe yeah just keep doing and then keep moving up. So then I started racing nationals, and I was quite good as an under 23, and well, I am under 23 now. I mean under 12. I was I was quite little, but everyone was quite little. So, but I had always had pretty good skills, so they kind of compensated for my size, and I could win. I could actually win races at like under 10, under 12, and then as people kind of shot up and I didn't, then it was less of a level playing field, and yeah, you just can't compete with a 16-year-old who's grown and looks like a 20-year-old versus a 16-year-old who hasn't grown and looks like a 12-year-old, which is what I
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
So I think that was probably a time that I probably could have found something else or become less interested. But at the time, we were doing kind of Scottish cycling sessions that were really kind of skill focused. So that was kind of a way for me to I could still show off like what I was good at, and it wasn't results based and it wasn't performance based. It was just about development, and it was a really good way of keeping me in cycling because it gave me something to kind of look forward to every week or to yeah. I think if I was maybe more road orientated at that point in my like cycling career, it would have been a little bit harder because you've got to have a certain level of strength to kind of enjoy the races. I think at a certain level.
Mm.
Whereas in mountain biking and with the certain coaches, I was able to kind of yeah get something a little bit different out of it, not just results and not just speed and power. And then so yeah, as an under 14, under 16, there wasn't much happening. I was just kind of just going to races and getting kind of kicked in by my mates who are a lot bigger. But then as things level out more and yeah, you get stronger and you develop physically and all that, you things yeah level out. So towards junior, I was able to kind of catch back up to these people and then use the skills and all of these experiences that I've had to learn from not being so big to then
Mm.
yeah
Do you think
using
that
them with some
helped you
power.
then, being in a place where you had to, as an under 14, you had to kind of struggle a bit, you had to work harder than these people who are more naturally talented? Do you think, what's your opinion on that?
I think yeah, you see that a lot actually with other riders and in other sports, like people who have not had the easy road actually when it comes to when the playing field is more level, then yeah, they've gained these other skills. So I think I learned how to keep up with people because of my skills or because of my tactics or because of the little things, not just kind of pure power. And maybe some of those other riders who developed earlier maybe kind of left some of those things to the side because they could because they didn't need them. So I think in the yeah, overall, I think it has helped me because right now one more of the kind of skilled riders, and I think those skills I learned them all when I was kind of yeah trying to compensate for not being very strong on the bike.
Yeah, bunny hopping jumps and all sorts of stuff. I've
Yeah,
still not
yeah,
mastered that one.
yeah, and all those little things like yeah, at the time you don't realize how useful they are because for me it was always just kind of playing on the bike. It was always just it felt fun to do. It felt good to go out with your mates and just build jumps and try and ride down drop offs that you probably shouldn't be riding down. Like that was all just really fun. And then you look back and go like that's the best way to learn something. Like to
Mm,
for it not to feel like a chore or like it's hard work. Because then when you can't do it, if you don't get disheartened, it's like always progress. And I think I can take something of that. Anyone can kind of learn from that and like trying to make learning fun or trying to make it like less of a chore. Whether that's yeah, finding a slightly different way to do it, like in bike related things, like yeah, going out with friends is a really good way to learn because it's not as self-focused. You can kind of bounce off other people and
mm.
your failures become their kind of comedy, which if you can laugh about
And
it or
vice
like
versa,
yeah,
right?
just a bit more lighthearted because like especially when you're a bit older, it's easy to get kind of disheartened when you're learning new skills and stuff. And I find it every year when I'm kind of trying to get my skills back up on the cyclocross bike. It's hard. Like you've got to because skills can kind of yeah go away from you if you don't practice them all the time. So I yeah always try and remember to take it back to basics and just ground up, slowly build up, and it'll come back quite quickly. But yeah, just trying to keep it keep it fun and not get too disheartened about it.
Oh, of course, it's very important to keep it fun. So when you were growing up, did you cycle mainly like with your mates, or did you kind of get into it with your family?
It was actually maybe more through my family. Like
Mm.
we used to do like family cycling holidays. So we'd
Oh,
do like a long weekend or something. So we'd go and cycle around like the Isle of Arran or something on in Scotland,
wow.
or we'd go to a specific place and like we'd cycle one day. And I look back and it was probably only like 30, 40 miles in one day. But when you're 12 or 13, that's a lot. So
Yeah.
um, and actually I think a lot of those bike rides, yeah, I now realize how much I got out of them in terms of like the feeling of like going somewhere and like totally under your own power as well. Like point A to point B, stopping in a bar or pub and like sleeping there or like camping, and it's very, yeah, I don't know, it's quite empowering, isn't it, when you're only like 12, 13, and you're opening up your world, but it's literally just your
Mm,
legs,
yeah.
or with my dad's hand on my back as he pushes me up hills, because I used to be an
Yeah, yeah.
absolute, I I was not a hard kid. I was, for a long time I would definitely be whinging for the push on the climbs,
Oh
because
my
my dad was a lot stronger. But yeah, no, me and my dad, my mom, and my brother would go on cycling holidays, and yeah, I think yeah, in the summer we'd do loads of them, and we'd kind of, yeah, broaden our little bubble of places that we've ridden our bikes. So yeah, that was really good fun.
And that must have been pretty cool, being 12 and going to school and being like, I rode 30 miles. And people
That
just
is
can't
that
even
yeah,
fathom it, can they?
that was the majority of my childhood, was like, yeah,
Yeah,
and because I was super proud of it. Or like you do a race weekend down in the borders and or something, and then you can tell your friends about it because it's actually a really cool sport. And or you go to Glentress and you hit a massive drop off, and you're not you don't have, even though I'm not very old, we didn't have like mobile phones to like show our mates in primary school. So you
yeah,
just tell them how massive the drop was, and you say it was twice the size of me, which is mega bragging rights. Like it
yeah,
was this
yeah,
big.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that yeah, I think because not many people at my school rode bikes. There were a
Mm.
few people kind of in the area through the bike club, but actually at my school it was kind of just me, my brother, and then a few other people. So that, I think that was quite, yeah, it didn't really put me off. If anything, it was like, this is my thing. It's like my thing to be proud of, and I can boast about it when I want to boast about it. Like it wasn't like the normal thing, which I kind
Mm.
of got something out of, because um yeah, I could kind of go my own path, and some parts of it people wouldn't understand, but I was all right because I enjoyed it for my own reasons.
So what was your bike club you mentioned that you first rode for?
West Lothian Clarion was our my first bike club, just a go ride club. It was always like an adult club, and then when I was like 11 or 12, my dad actually helped start the youth club. And yeah, it was
Oh,
just
amazing.
Saturday mornings. I think it was like 9, 10 a.m. And I think we started with like 10, 15 people and like a couple of coaches doing like flat skills at the leisure center on the grass. Um, and yeah, like picking up bottles from little boxes and then putting them on the other ones, and doing little. I can't remember if we were doing cyclocross skills at that point or if it was just kind of
Gotta
general
love
bike
go
skills.
ride. Gotta love go ride. It's
Yeah, I
amazing.
think so.
Like,
Yeah, I think it was just general go ride skills.
yeah.
And then as we got more coaches and as we got more people from the area, we had like mountain bike sessions and then road sessions and cyclocross sessions, and at one point, probably when I was, yeah, like an under 12, we were doing week on, week off at different venues. So we'd have like a crit week. So we'd go to the car park and do a full few hours of crit training. And then we'd have cyclocross training week. And then we'd have a mountain bike training week. Where I live, there's like quite a big, yeah, like there's lots of different woods for different things. So there's like the leisure center, and then there's car parks, and then there's mountain bike places. So yeah, that was it was a really important thing that the club were pushing was pushing us to ride lots of different bikes if we had them, and
Yeah.
the club also had bikes to loan out. So I rode a club bike a cyclocross bike all the way through until under 14. So they had a massive kind of fleet of Isla bikes that they'd got
Oh
donated. So
wow,
that was,
awesome.
yeah, it was really cool. And so they would get given to riders who were racing or riders who were kind of coming up. And yeah, that was really important.
Wow, yeah, no, it sounds like an absolutely amazing club. Is it still going strong now?
Yeah, I mean, I think they managed to do quite a bit in the summer, even though COVID, but just within the region, obviously. But yeah, they've probably got a waiting list still and a few hundred
Yeah.
kids. I think they're the biggest, second biggest in Scotland. So they're now
Wow.
very big. So when I started, it was just 10 of us, and then now there's a couple of hundred.
You were
And
like the
I think they're all
OG.
under juniors. Yeah, yeah. There's photos of me absolutely tiny in like an ultra like massive
Oh,
baggy jacket of
I
my
feel like everyone has those photos. They're like when they first started. Like if you started when you're a kid, it's kind of acceptable to have bad clothes, isn't it? But I think everyone
yeah.
has like when they started, they just had awful clothes, like no idea what they're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. And then but then you see some kids now and they're rocking around in flipping the best, like most trick kit ever. And now all the bike brands make like sick bikes as
Did
well.
you see the specialized balance bike that's like
Yeah.
£1,000 or something?
I have to promote that. I get commission on that and it's a
Oh,
good one. No, I'm joking.
imagine. Oh my God. And I mean, there always used to be kids, you know, and they turn up and it's like a 12-year-old on a Cervelo with Di2. And I raced a cyclocross bike for road and cyclocross until I was
Yeah.
about 15. So,
Yeah, my first road bike wasn't until junior because a
yeah.
cyclocross bike is perfect for it because then you can use it for
Exactly.
everything. Then I think and everyone had the decathlon set. Well, I did anyway because decathlon was kind of quite big at that point. But the full like the B twin fleece and
Oh,
everything, and
yes. B
it's
Twin
good.
had it all going.
And if you're just about to grow out of it, then why not go to decathlon and get your kit?
Oh,
So
it makes so much sense, right? I mean, especially when you're, 10 and you're having like massive growth spurts. Like it
yeah.
doesn't make sense to spend that much money on kit.
Yeah, and the inter club kind of kit swaps as well, because there's no doubt someone else is going to need your kit because they're just getting into it.
Oh,
Although the kit that I
100%.
would always pass on would have like knee holes and elbow holes from falling off. So, but my mom is good at sewing
Classic.
and stitching and that type of stuff. So the we managed to get quite a lot of life out of my kit, and a lot of it is still going as well. Like I see it when I go home and ride in and Lithgow. I see bits of my old kit riding around still
Yeah,
on other
yeah,
people.
amazing.
So it's obviously it's good quality stuff, and if people keep repairing it, then it can keep
Did you
going.
used to have, did you used to have that like go ride jersey
No, I don't think they made it
that
up
was
to
like
us
red
in our
and
club.
blue and
No, I think we had what did we? There's basically our club jerseys just got more grey and more grey, like they're white and yellow, and they just got so used and passed down.
mm.
But it all lasted. But there's still a few bits of my kit that are kind of still in the circulation of the bike club, I think.
Awesome. Well, it's great that people can still get the use out of it. And, when they see you now doing amazing, third in the European cyclocross champs, they can be like, I've got his jersey.
And those loaner bikes, the bikes that the club had, I think a lot of them are still going. So
Hmm.
and now these under 14s have Instagram. They message me and say, "I think this is the bike that you rode when you were 14."
Oh,
So
that's so
I
nice.
think that's pretty cool.
No, that definitely is. So let's talk about you going into your junior ranks. Obviously, you've grown into yourself. You've gained some strength that you maybe didn't have when you were in the under 16 and under 14 level races. What was it like turning up to junior and being like, oh, I'm quite fast now?
Yeah, it was still like yeah. So I think first year junior, I started to kind of we started doing a lot more national races. So yeah, traveling down to England and for mountain bike and cyclocross. So racing with guys like Pidcocks and Turners and Tulets and all of these names that you kind of recognize now. And because they're all kind of the year older than me. So when I was first year junior, I was in the same races as Tom Pidcock and Ben Turner, watching them kind of go off to Europe and do that. So at that point, that was definitely a big kind of, yeah, motivation for me, seeing these guys who are just there but doing exactly what I want to do. Um, so yeah, just saw that and was like, yep, I'll just do what they're doing. I'll go to these races, try every week to get a little bit better. And it started paying off. And yeah, in first year junior, there was still nothing exciting going on with results or anything. But looking back, I realized I should have cared about it even less. Like, it's not, junior is not really the time to be going kind of result hunting. There was
No.
just, yeah, loads of experiences that I was gaining and all of this. And that's what I'm still remembering and using to this day. So it was a really good few years. And at the time I was on the Scottish mountain bike program,
Mhm.
which was a really important platform for me in just the kind of the structure and then also the opportunities that it gave me with mountain biking internationally. So we did a trip every year to Banyoles near Girona to do a training camp and then a big UCI race.
Amazing.
And that made me feel like very pro because obviously
Yeah.
you're going to another country and then you're racing. Like the first year I went, I got a photo with Pauline Fran Prevot because, you know, when you're like 16-year-old guy, it's absolute hero.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, and then so yeah, that was really really cool. And you're obviously training on nice roads and on really amazing trails around Girona. Um, so that yeah, the pro life then was like, whoa, this is super cool, and you're doing it with your mates as well, so that makes it even more fun. And you're at school at the same time, so there's a bit of that. Like it was a
Mm.
little bit hard, obviously. Like, yeah, I think when I was, yeah, 16, 17, junior, I think you're doing your hires in Scotland, which is like your A levels
Yeah.
or your
GCSE.
GCSEs, yeah. Um, so yeah, that was a little bit hard to kind of, it's like anything, isn't it? Just balancing. But then at that time, the cycling was getting better as well, so that kind of made
Mm.
the school a little bit easier in terms of maybe it's not as important if I'm enjoying my bike this much, then I know then maybe I don't need to put as much effort into into my school, which I don't know. It's turned out fine. So
So, do you think when you first did that trip to Banyo, like when is it you think you realize like I want to be a pro, I want to be a full-time bike rider?
I don't know. You get asked quite a bit about that, and I was for me it was never like a switch or anything. It was like I want to ride a bike, and 1 year later I'll be like, yep, I still want to ride a bike, and then 1 year later I'm
Mm.
like, yep, still want to ride a bike, and now I'm like, yep, I still want to ride a bike, and it just happens that you're doing it a little bit more professionally each year. Like very small steps. Like for me, it was never like, boom, here's the contract, here's world tour or anything like that. It's just
Mm.
little steps up. So yeah, it's in my head it all seems like quite a natural progression, but then for some people who don't know me or like my family are always like, well, yeah, you just kept riding your bike and you took the opportunities that were there and you walked
Yeah.
through the open doors. And to me and them it seems quite simple, but I guess from the
Mhm.
outside you'd be like, maybe, yeah, like, was it this a special opportunity that came along? But I think, yeah, all of the things that came to me were as a result of kind of me doing quite proactive things, like going to certain races because I wanted to work on a certain type of thing. Like if I hadn't gone to Belgium when I was a junior to start somewhere and to race, then I wouldn't have got noticed by this person who gave me this. And then so it's, yeah, obviously when you look back, it looks a bit black and white. Obviously, you're like, that's the reason I'm here today. But
Mm.
when in the moment, it's never really like that. But I seem to have kind of done the right steps to kind of get to a certain level in one way. But there's loads of different ways. There's other people have shown like you can someone like Evie Richards who's come really from mountain biking and really only been mountain biking, and then has also done cyclocross, and then there's obviously road riders who've changed about. Like there's loads of different ways, which is a good thing. And I think the way that I've gone about it is a bit more different, like not really being connected to British cycling as much. Um,
Mm.
because when you're like a junior, for a lot of riders, it's like talent team or like it's all about the program. or
Mm.
Olympics, and that can be quite that system's quite cutthroat as well. So if that's all you were ever thinking about, I think that if things don't work out, then yeah, you don't want to get kind of cut down early. Whereas I think the way I went about it was equally as hard in his own ways, but just was important to show that there's other ways to kind of be a full-time bike rider or to race internationally and do these things. So I hopefully that's kind of helped other people realize that there's more than one way to be a bike rider.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think there's so much pressure on a lot of riders when they are 15, 16, 17, 18. Like you say, you're doing your GCSEs or you're doing your A levels. But if you're
Yeah,
someone who's like you have an opportunity to be an elite rider or you show the potential to, there's a lot of pressure because it's like you got to do your schoolwork, but also we want you to win all these things.
it's just someone's always got to people are always going to be invested in you as well. Yeah, it's just that balance of doing things for yourself and then also planning ahead. And I think I never really overthought it that much, which was probably a good thing. Like I just did what I did in the moment and then didn't really tried not to regret what I was doing and just did what I had to do. So I did school to the best of my ability and then set myself up to a level that if things didn't go right in cycling, then there were other opportunities. But then just as things happened, the doors kind of opened in cycling, and then I could kind of scoot off in that direction. So
Off I go.
um, yeah, see you guys. As
What-
as kind of friends were going off to uni and stuff, it was kind of a natural progression for me to go and do my thing,
Mm.
and kind of move on to my next bit of life.
Awesome. What's your experience with Scottish cycling? Because I know you said you were involved with them when you were a junior. How does the Scottish cycling system work?
Yeah, so Scottish cycling are just kind of like a regional body, really, but the difference is they're like a Commonwealth country, so that's quite a bit
Mm,
of their funding is Commonwealth medals and games. So, and then they get direct funding from British Cycling as well. So it's for me, yeah, I owe a lot to them in terms of like the specifics of different parts of my development and stuff. And yeah, they look after Scottish cyclists basically, and they've got quite a good understanding of like the different disciplines as well. And I think we've got great facilities in terms of like we've got track facilities, road facilities, and then we have a big group of mountain bikers just because in Scotland there's
you
lots of
have
mountain biking.
mountains there, yeah.
Yeah, so just generally, like there are quite a few mountain bikers coming through programs, so that is like seen as quite a priority. And along with that Commonwealth Games thing, it means that riders get sent there. So like Isla Short at the last games and Grant Ferguson, and at the moment there's quite a few mountain bikers and stuff. So that's something that Scottish cycling definitely value.
It's definitely interesting because a lot of the people I know kind of came up either through that kind of talent team,
Mm,
ODP, kind of British cycling Olympic pathway, or they, started later, they did the Dave Rayner Fund, or they tried to
mm,
do it themselves. And it's so interesting, just like people's perspectives on like, some people are really jealous of like, oh, I wish I'd been in that program. But then often you speak
yeah,
to riders who've been through this and it's not like obviously for a lot it's done them really well, but for some people it's not the right balance. So I think it
yeah.
definitely depends on your personality, what
Yeah, yeah, and like
way is going to work for
as
you.
as you kind of as you meet more people, you realize how many different ways there are to the top. Like just in the last few years and like being on Trinity, I've met a lot of different people. So there's people like Abby May Parkinson who's come up actually really quite self-made in terms of she made a big step to race for an Italian team when she was a junior in U23. So that was quite a big just moving to Italy on her own uh,
Mm,
really young. And that's obviously one way. And you see that a lot of the road riders moving off to France and stuff and trying to make a name for themselves. But then there's program riders who have come up through the track and stuff like that. So yeah, there's loads of different ways. And then off-road riders have their own kind of development and pathway. And everyone kind of comes together with those loads of different skills, like life
mm.
skills and different race results. And then they all get kind of chucked on one team, and then kind of made to get
Everyone's
along, which
equal on that start line though, right?
yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the leveler of cycling is you have to get to the finish line first. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about your riding with Trinity. So
Mhm.
you won the junior national cyclocross series in the 2017-2018 season, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you started riding for Trinity 2018. Have I got that right?
So I yeah
Or
I won
2019?
yeah so I won the series, and then I did 1 year of being a privateer basically in cyclocross.
Yeah.
So I had my own sponsors, and that year I went to Belgium for the first time like properly. So me and my dad would go over kind of every other weekend and race double headers, and just try and learn everything you've got to learn racing abroad and new tracks and everything. And that season, nothing that exciting happened. I did well in the kind of British races, but for the most
Mm.
part, it was kind of being in Belgium and getting my ass kicked, and uh, just kind of getting around races and getting pulled out of races and making mistakes and stuff. But that season kind of culminated in me getting selected for the world champs, which was
Mm.
really a big opportunity as a first year U23. So I went to the world champs in Denmark, and uh, also selected was like Thomas Mean, Ben Turner, and Tom Pidcock. So I was in good company, and
Yes.
I didn't do anything interesting in the race, but I was one step closer to kind of hopefully being competitive. And then during the summer of, yeah, I guess it was 2019, Tom messaged me asking if I want to ride for his team, and that was a very welcome message because it
Yeah.
was
Cheers,
their
Tom.
Trinity are the only kind of UCI level cyclocross team that are British, and
Mm.
they've shown with other riders that they have the platform to help people like me. So I jumped at that and moved out to Belgium in October, and then spent the whole season racing cyclocross, and alongside Tom and Abby, my teammates last year, and then this year with a few more riders, I've learned a huge amount, and now in a position that I can kind of start to kind of win medals and things like this, which is a bit mad. But yeah, the first season I was living out in Belgium, the last cyclocross season was big learning curve in terms of looking after yourself and just general day to day being a bike rider. Like you wake up and you've got to do a job, and you've got to yeah look after your body and turn up to the races mentally and physically as good as you can be. And um you've got to be a teammate, and you've got to be a rider, and you've got to do all these things. So yeah, it was a lot of learning in that first season. So yeah.
What's the setup then? So are you based in Belgium for 6 months of the year? How does that work?
Um, yeah, basically October until February, so it's like yeah, it's 5 months. The team have a team house near Brussels, so we all live in that. So last year it was just me and Tom for most of the year, and then this year there's a few more of us, so we're at the most there's five of us. But with travel and everything and me breaking my collarbone, we've actually managed to miss each other quite a bit. But there's always someone racing.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's just me, Ben, and Tom who are out finishing off the season, basically. Being with riders like Tom and training with him every day, and last year especially, like I learned loads. Like he's done a lot of things already, and ridden loads of different races and stuff. So every week I could kind of learn from a rider like him, and see kind of how he functions as a bike rider, because I've made it to kind of a really good level, but I've also got a lot to learn in the world of cycling. Like my progression was really kind of quite smooth, but it
Mm.
was obviously regional, national, and then international. And um, there's, as you know, in cycling, there's always new things to learn, new technologies, new ways of looking at things, and there's always someone telling you to do it like this because it's better. And or like look at this new piece of research. But I think the other thing that I learned quite quickly is that a lot of athletes' success is down to doing simple things really well and being
Mm.
consistent with things. And that's kind of why. what I try and replicate is yeah, being consistent and being solid with things. There's no magic ingredient, and there's no special diet, there's no special
Yeah,
training program that makes you the best in the world. It really is quite boring. It's showing up every day,
yeah.
doing the work, and then recovering really well. Um, and that's kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think like definitely the life of an elite sports person, it's, it can be glamorized. It can be like,
Hmm.
it can be made to seem like they're almost superhuman. But I think actually the talent is that discipline to, like you say, do all of the simple things right every
Hmm.
day
Yeah,
forever, like for a really long
and
time.
like and finding like definitely a thing that I learned in 2020 was like it made me realize what I really where the enjoyment really came from riding my bike, because there was a really big period from so I raced like at the end of the cyclocross season in February, and then I didn't race again until August, which is the longest time I've never raced. And I realized what I needed to keep riding my bike every day, and that was basically just the kind of adventure more exploration, like riding new trails every day and that type of stuff. That's what actually got me out the door every day. And that's something that I will now remember, is that if I'm ever stuck for motivation or ever in a bit of a rut, trying to yeah tap into that a little bit more. Because yeah, I rode more new roads and new trails back in my home in Linlithgow in Scotland than I have ever done before, because I had like everyone had loads of time and lots of training to do. So I kind of set about trying to ride everything that I could, trying to slowly kind of get further from home and riding more towards Glasgow and doing different hill ranges and on my gravel bike and on my mountain bikes. Um, and yeah, that was a really, yeah, I had the best summer ever last year. And which seems a bit selfish to say when there's so much going on, but at that time, what I felt was the best thing I could do was yeah, follow the rules and do the best that I can do in my job. And hopefully that kind of benefits the world down the line, that I kind of focus on myself a little bit and just and work on what I can work on. But yeah, it's been a tough year for everyone, but
Yeah.
I think I'm happy I managed to get out of 2020 some really good things and tick off some good things.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting listening to how different athletes and people as a whole have
Mm,
motivated themselves, and especially for athletes, being a racer, you're so goal driven.
yeah.
This race I want to do well in, or I'm aiming for this time of year because these are the races that I want to perform in. So like you say, it's just focusing on that. What can you do? What can you actually control?
Mm,
um I think it's super interesting, but like with anything, keeping the fun in it, like with going off for finding new trails and that sort of thing, like that's what makes it fun, and that's what keeps you keeps you going. What in your opinion has been the best thing from 2020 and the worst thing for you personally?
It's probably the same thing. It's been the best and the worst.
Mm.
Like the lack of racing has probably been the worst thing, but then it's also been like a blessing in terms of maybe realize all the other things that cycling's got to offer. Like I did a lot more social riding, obviously small groups, and where we actually could when the rules were allowed to. But the I did certain rides that I would never have done if there hadn't been racing around the corner. So I did on the summer solstice. We did a 300-kilometer gravel ride, me and a few friends,
Whoa.
which I would have never really kind of considered, and because that stuff like knocks you out for quite a while. So
Yeah.
if I had been racing, then no way I would have even thought about it. And then yeah, the bad thing is obviously not having the racing, and because yeah, I'm competitive, and that week on week goal is what kind of drives me and gets me up every day and keeps me moving forward. But yeah, as I said, like I was trying to find like different things to do that day in day out. And yeah, I just kind of yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't I made me kind of think if racing doesn't happen for whatever reason, whether it's from my side, whether it's my body fails or doors close or something, it makes me a lot less scared for what's on the other side, because I realize as long as I get enjoyment out of riding a bike or out of doing anything, I'll probably be able to find some motivation in that. Because and it's that I'd never really had that headroom. I'd never really thought that. I don't really like looking at the future. I like looking, where do you want to see yourself in 4 years? I hate that question. Like, I do not look.
That's
I've
my
never
next question.
I've never looked that far. Like, I'm friends with people at school, and like they seem like they have their whole kind of life planned out. They do this, 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 and then they'll be happy. And that just doesn't, never really goes across my head. I'm just kind of like, yes, this is fun now. And if it stops, it stops. And if it keeps going, then perfect. I'll keep enjoying it. But I think last year definitely was like, yeah, learned a few more things about myself that will hopefully, yeah, help me as a person.
Really interesting how you've gotten through this year, and you seem so optimistic, which is honestly like so refreshing. Because COVID comes up and everyone's like, oh my God, it's the worst
Yeah.
thing ever. But
I
it's
mean,
really
you
refreshing
do.
that you enjoyed it so much.
It's not all optimism in terms of like there's, yeah, there have been sometimes when you're like, you sit down and think about it, like, oh my goodness, my career is like slipping away from me, like all these races that I'm missing, like yeah. But then I take another step back and I'm like, actually, I'm riding my bike every day. I'm still getting stronger. I'm still getting fitter. All of this, like, yeah, I'm in the right direction. And
Oh,
the racing did come back. And even though the world is different, I think that side of things will hopefully keep ticking along at some sort of level. But I am super happy and lucky to be in Europe and still doing exactly what I love. And I was chatting to my mum about it yesterday, and they're really happy just to see me while things are very slow in the UK, and it can feel really quite doom and gloom. They're really happy that I'm still able to push forward and tick off these awesome things. And for them as parents, obviously that's yeah, that's the perfect thing to see your kids doing that. Yeah, it's not, yeah, that you're not getting stalled by these things that are going on. So yeah, I'm definitely grateful for that.
as you say, if you're still enjoying it and it's still bringing you joy, then that's the right thing to do, for sure. So you just on your way back from an injury. You broke your collarbone in December, just 1 month after you got third in the European cyclocross champs. How are you doing?
Yeah, well, the shoulder is all fine. It's got some metal in it at the moment,
Yeah.
which, yeah, is cool. I never broken a bone before. I crashed, so that was
Oh
my first ever
no.
break. So I was racing the Super Prestige in Merckx Plus, and on the very first lap, I think we were 5 minutes into the race, I came into the sand section and got off line and went straight over the bars, and didn't even have time to put my hands out, but I just fell on my shoulder and all my weight went through it, and it just broke my collarbone. And I could hear and feel it break, and I was like, "Yep, well, that's what
Oh
it feels like to break a collarbone." And I knew then, I was like, "Yep, let's just climb off the course here and go see the doctor." And they took me off to hospital and did surgery the same day, which was great. And it
wow.
was
No, that
pretty
is really
quick, to be
good.
honest. Like, I had 2 weeks in a sling, and then another month of no racing, and then I did my first race at the weekend, and that's pretty much 2 months of recovery. So it's, yeah, if
How'd you get
something
on?
like that was going to happen, then it was 2020 was the year for it to happen. So that is another bucket list thing for 2020, was break my collarbone. uh, and uh, I've kind of put that to bed now, and now we're in 2021, and it's a new year to do all that stuff. But
It
that's,
was on
yeah.
your bucket list to break your collarbone.
No,
What?
no. Well, maybe looking back at it, it's like it's a bucket list thing for a cyclist.
Yeah,
Well, not a
maybe.
bucket list thing. It's more, it's a rite of passage. That's what I mean. No
Rite
one
of
has that on
passage,
their bucket
yeah.
list.
I
You've
was
got to
gonna
break
say,
your
like, when I'm
collarbone.
contemplating, like, oh, learn a language, oh, break my collarbone.
No, definitely. And when I was slogging it out on Zwift in a sling, that was
Oh
definitely, I
God.
was not stoked about that.
Did you have to like did you have something to hold your arm up, or did you just have to
Well,
use?
I had it in the sling, and then we had a step ladder to take the weight off it. So
Yeah,
I kind of was leaning on my elbow with it in the sling, which it wasn't too bad. We were a bit worried at the time though, that because you've seen the whole like Matthew Heyman like absolutely smashing his recovery, and then he went and won Roubaix.
yeah.
I think there's a photo of him in his garage with like a step ladder and anything, and I probably could have done that, like smashed out like 3 4 hour days on the turbo, but we didn't want to give myself another injury from being lopsided on the bike, or like compensating. So we
Yeah,
kept it quite easy, and my body was like very busy trying to recover from a surgery. So there was no crazy Zwift rides actually went down. It was all
yeah,
very basic stuff, but thankful for Zwift really that I at least had something to look at, because
yeah,
turbo can be pretty grim. But I was happy to be moving my legs, obviously, because
yeah.
uh, when you don't ride your bike for like a week and a bit, yeah, you're bursting to get back to it. So
You ever fancied any of that e-racing?
well, I to be honest, I'm surprised that I made it through 2020 without ever doing an e-race. So uh,
Have you
maybe
done one before?
2021. No, I've never raced on Zwift before. So maybe I don't know if anyone wants me on their team.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm I'm 60 kilos, so
Oh, mate,
that's
your power to weight will be ridiculous on Zwift. You'd
well.
be the
I
best
mean,
teammate
for
ever.
for a good power to weight, you need to have a lot of power, though. So it's
Uh,
all relative, isn't it? Yeah, and then you also can't bunny hop the hurdles on Zwift. So
I
I'm losing a
see.
bit there.
Yeah. They've not invented a Zwift cycocross yet.
No, they haven't. They've invented Zwift gravel and mountain biking and running, but I don't know if the
You
cyclocross
can do
market is
Zwift
really
gravel. I did not know this.
well. There's like off-road routes, I feel like, yeah, on Zwift.
I
So
don't know. I mean, I
but
use Swift, but
I don't think the
I don't train as
experience
much as I should.
I don't think the experience changes that much when you go onto gravel. It's not like
No.
there's in game there's you don't start getting like muddy shoes.
Oh my God. Imagine if it like just started like making it
Like
bumpy
or
somehow. I don't know.
like a dust machine started like
Yeah.
throwing stuff in your face, or like
Oh, I once saw these rollers actually. I think it was at like Eurobike or something, and someone had
cobbles.
put like cobbles on the
Yeah.
rollers.
Yeah. Well,
Crazy.
I think that's how they test I think is it Specialized or someone that or Schwalbe, they test tires with like a treadmill, like a bumpy treadmill, and they film the tires to see like how they perform, literally like on a rocky treadmill. Um, yeah,
Wow. The more
because
you know, eh?
I don't know why you wouldn't just go outside and do it, but I
Yeah.
suppose if you want to make it fancy, then bring it indoors.
Yeah, no, got to be scientific. You want all your results to be the same.
Yeah,
Okay, so 2021, we're here, January 2021. Um,
yeah.
although if you're listening to this podcast or watching this on YouTube, it'll actually be February by now. But what is your plan for 2021?
Ride bikes in general and race them as well. Hopefully, if the racing keeps going, in the next few weeks, basically up until the end of February, I'm racing cyclocross, and then I switch to mountain bike and road, with Trinity. So that's the plan for the summer. I've got mountain bike races lined up. Hopefully, big races like World Cups.
Oh wow,
So that'll
awesome.
be a new kind of challenge for me racing at that level, in cyclocross, and then hopefully some opportunities on the road as well. The road program with Trinity is really cool for a U23 rider, like with rides like the Baby Giro and
Mm.
Tour Lizard, like some really good U23 races, and we've got a really strong team as well, and some really good mentors in the team as well. Like Ian Stannard has just kind of come on as a mentor
Oh
in
wow.
Trinity, so that's yeah, it's really good. Like the more the better with road, and the amount of things there are to learn, and that is something in my head as well, that I'm very inexperienced on the road and in racing, so there's quite a bit of excitement there in terms of there's a lot of headroom, and there's a lot to learn. So if I was to do some road racing, it would be a definitely a new challenge. So
Is it
that
something you'd
was
like to do in the future then, a bit more on the road?
yeah like if the opportunities are there, then why wouldn't you just try and jump into them and see what's there? Like, I think, yeah, I've done way more road riding in the last few years than I've done before in terms of training, um, and I'd be interested to see how that would kind of go on to the actual road racing with the bunch skills and the tactics and stuff like that. It's something I'm not very good at, but I'd probably hopefully pick up quite quickly and then see how I'd get on.
Well, you're going to get thrown in the deep end if you do the baby Giro for sure.
Well, yeah, that's me just kind of flexing the name dropping. I don't,
Yeah.
I doubt that that's on someone else's program, but that's
Yeah.
me just flexing. Yeah,
Honestly, it's so funny. Jake, my other half, did the baby Giro a couple of years
yeah,
ago, and he's a sprinter. And he was they have a prize for the last place in the baby
yeah,
Giro, so he was like, "Oh, I'm like going for the black jersey," because I think there was like
yeah,
actually prize money
yeah, yeah.
for the last place in the baby
No
Giro. But
way.
obviously, just to finish the
Yeah,
baby Giro is an
yeah,
achievement in itself, for sure.
yeah. It's proper bike race. It looks like, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
you look at the names who have done well in that, and you're like, yep, those guys are on their way to big things in the world of cycling.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the Tour de l'Avenir and Baby
Yeah,
Giro, the riders who were podium in there, they're all going in, and next year they're winning tour, world tour races, which is
yeah.
crazy to think that the U23 level is that high.
Yeah, and it's easy to think like how quickly riders make their name in the world tour, like Mark Hershey, who everyone's
Mm.
absolutely loving at the moment. He only just won U23 Worlds a few years ago, and it's easy to forget. Yeah, that these guys are really really young, and the
Yeah,
kind
I
of the
mean, there's
whole
so many
tradition.
young riders now, right? You've got
Yeah,
Pogacar, you've got Sivakov,
yeah, Remco,
Bernal,
Pidcock.
Remco. Oh, Pidcock,
Yeah,
your mate Pidcock.
yeah. I think
What's it like being on the team with him?
it's cool. Like he's a big name, but then the majority of the time you don't really see that. You just see another bike rider who really loves riding his bike and who trains hard and who eats well and sorts stuff out. So yeah, he's no, he's good fun to be around, and he just his kind of passion and enjoyment for the bike riding is a good person to be around. So
You just know him as your housemate is like, come on, do the dishes.
yeah, exactly. No, he is quite good with that stuff. He's good around the house.
Oh, you're not gonna drop it. You're not gonna drop him in it now.
I'm just trying to think. No, I'm not gonna do that.
No worries. Thanks so much, Cameron, for joining us on the podcast. If people want to find you, where do they go?
Well, hopefully, if you just type in Cameron Mason, then I'll just come up. But it's Camerooni Mason on Instagram, and then Cameron Mason on YouTube, and that's the main thing. And I have a Wikipedia page now. Apparently, someone
Oh.
sent that to me a few days ago, so you should go and look at my Wikipedia and get my like stats off on that.
Awesome. Well, if anyone's interested, I will leave all the information in description of the video or the podcast, depending on how you're watching or listening to this. Thanks so much, Cameron.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And to listen to the full podcast, you can search the Keira McVitty podcast in your favourite podcast platform, or you can click the link below. Keep risking it for a biscuit, and I'll see you in the next video.